We're going to continue on now with the sharpening of the veneer saw. Just want to explain the geometry of it a little bit. The back is flat. There's no set on these teeth on the back. And on this side, there's just a taper or a bevel out to these points. Now these points are they're very primitive kind of points. When you first get them, they might be a little bit angled, but the angle doesn't actually matter that much. Just think of them as points with a bevel on this one side, and they're going to be flat on the side that's you're going to use against your straight edge. So I usually use a straight edge regular weight MDF, 3/4 of an inch thick. You could use an inch thick too. It's really positive in the way that it weights down the veneer when you're cutting, and it also gives you a nice high smooth edge to slice against. So we're gonna take this apart. To sharpen it, I like to get it out of the holder. You really need to. And let's take this out, and you can see, so there's just a couple screws on this one. Pretty simple here. I think whenever you get them, you really need to tune them this way. And I'm going to explain to you in a second. But this side is pretty sharp right now, but I'm going to go to sharpen this side. This will be our example. I'm going to put a little black dot on there so we know that's the side we're going to sharpen. And let me move these stones out of the way for a second. We've got these dimples on this one where the screws come in. They're countersunk, so you'll have that flat surface when you're slicing. So you've got these kind of bumps on this side. And what I want to do is clamp it in the vise, but those are a hindrance to getting it solidly clamped. So what I took was a piece of pine. You could use any kind of block of wood. And I just sawed the distance apart. I made a couple Forstner recesses, and now this is my veneer saw block.
Cool.
See, it says it right on there. It has to be that. Yeah. So I just keep this in my tool cabinet, and when I need to saw, now I can use that block on the dimpled side, and it can go right into my vise. What I'm going to do now is reform the points. Okay, let's just do a little, see, I'll just do a few teeth here. So these are a little bit of an arc, but you have these basically triangular teeth here. And after you've used the saw a little bit, you're going to notice that these points are now dulling down a bit. And quite often I can tell that by looking at it in the light, and if you see reflection on the points, you're going to see, you're going to know that that's dulled down. But one fun thing to have in your toolbox is an eye loop. Check it out, like this. And this was given to me. This is an old-fashioned one. It has a little leather pouch, but I used to still occasionally get my work photographed by a professional photographer down in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and he, I forget what we were doing. This was in the days of just coming into digital. You know, it used to be all the Polaroids and all the regular film days when I was first doing this. And he got this out one day so I could look closely at an image, like a slide. You know, remember the slides? You would look at them through these things. And I was really into it. I guess I showed some enthusiasm. He goes, you know what?
There's a surprise.
You can have that. I don't know what it is, but people are always giving me stuff. Anyway, you can get your own loop. You don't have to wait for someone to give you one. But we put a link. There's more modern ones. They call them jeweler's loops. I'm not sure what the power is on this, but on there it says 30, 60, 90 magnification. So that might be significantly more than this. But the reason you want this is because it's really useful to examine your tool edges when you're sharpening, and it's enlightening to see what's actually happening to the steel and the geometry of the edge as you go through the sharpening phase. You can use this with your regular chisels too. And when you get it, you just rest it right on the edge, this one, and then the magnification is perfect for that distance. Now I wish I could share this, but it's cool. But trust me, I'm seeing exactly what's going on. I can see some dull, flattened teeth there. And this is helpful, especially if you want to become a connoisseur of sharpening veneer saws. Now, once it's worn down, like on those points a little bit like that, you've got to refile. So what we do, like, let's say if we had some that were rounded like this. Okay, if the teeth were rounded, what we're gonna do is use this triangular file, and we're just gonna make a cut between each tooth. When you make that cut, a little metal is gonna remove off of this side. Now I exaggerated the round over, so I'm exaggerating the amount of metal that will come off too. So I'll just shoot down there, and then I'll go between the next teeth. I'm gonna be taking a little bit off each side. Okay, so what you're gonna do is recreate the sharp points when you do that, okay? Now, it's not just the points, but it's that bevel. So if we look at the end view, again, we have that bevel running like this on that one side. And what we want to try to achieve, let's see if I can draw this in 3 dimensions. I don't think so. What we want to achieve is that bevel so it ends right at the point. So you've got the convergence of these angles and the beveled angle. So that's our goal, to end up with recreating these razor sharp points like shark's teeth right across that top of that saw. All right, hopefully that explains it enough. All right, so once you get it in there, one of the things you want to ensure that you do when you sharpen a veneer saw is to keep the teeth kind of in plane. You don't want a tall tooth and then some that are low, because they're not going to do anything. So the way you do that is you've got to file these uniformly. So I'm going to start on the right here, and I'm just going to push forward a set distance. It might be a little annoying, the noise, and I'm going to try to be like a machine. Just do the exact same thing between every tooth, so I don't change the height of these teeth. Here we go. Isn't this fun? Did you turn me down? That's okay. All right. We also link to a file that's actually better than this. It might even be more aggressive, so if you do get that file, but it's beautiful. Now, once I've gone through that step, I'm done with the triangle file, and I can take a quick peek and see they are sharp, but we've got to bring the bevel down to it because we dropped the teeth just subtly. Now, I can also feel a set, like on the bottom, or a burr, because I was pushing out to the bottom, and that's the direction I think you're better off pushing, because we're going to remove that, okay? So I had the bevel facing me in the vise as I went across. All right, here we go. Now that we've got that set, we're going to go through our stones. Now, you could hit this bevel with a file. You know, I've seen people do that. If you have a fine file, you could just file this. It's hard, it's difficult to hold it in the vise and do that. And I want to get a keener edge. Like I told you, you're going to be samurai sharp. So we got to go a little higher than that. So we're going to just work the bevel edge of this. So I'm going to hold it. I'm going to come down onto This is a diamond stone, 95 micron, I forget. It's pretty coarse, I mean, but you could use 1,000 grit would be fine to start with too. But I'm gonna start with this just to hone it. If you wanna start with a diamond stone, you can. And I'm holding it at about the bevel angle, maybe about 30 degrees. I don't know if you can see that. And I'm just making these nice little sweeps. And this metal is not super hard, so it doesn't take long. And I would look at my eye loop again here, but let me see if I'm far enough. I want to see that bevel coming down to the teeth. I've got it close in the middle. I'm going to just hit it here. So now I've done that course. Now I'm going to move to the 1,000 grit stone. I'm not going to hit the back until I get on this stone. This is these are the Ohishi stones from.
David's curious, is filing always needed or just when the teeth need reshaping? Could you just hit them with the stones?
You can hit them with the stones, but you'll see if you look at them, if these are blunted, it's difficult. You really need to bring that V down lower to recreate the point from this perspective. Okay, so you're working this from two dimensions. From this dimension, from the side view, you have to re-point it. So to do that, you have to bring the V down slightly to recreate the points. If it's not bad, you could probably just go to this bevel edge. But if you do the bevel, you're going to be sharp from this dimension, but you may have rounded, blunted points. Hope that makes sense. So you've got to just do that step if it's really in need. All right, now I'm going to just kind of sweep on here. And I don't always use the loop, so I'm going to just look and I can see I'm good. If I really want to see the points are reestablished, I would. Now I'm going to hit the back, and this is just to remove that burr. And there's a little flexy.
Have you ever,
that feels great.
Do you ever substitute an inlay veneer saw versus? Oh goodness, I'm going to mess this question up. Hang tight.
I'm doing the 3,000 now. You can move to 4,000 or whatever, whatever you have.
An inlay saw for a veneer saw. Substitute an inlay saw for a veneer saw. Could one substitute an inlay saw for a veneer saw?
I'm not sure the difference. I don't know what an inlay saw is. But you got me there. You'll have to send me a picture.
Okay.
I'm not sure what an inlay saw is. So there might be a new name or another name for something.
Here you go, Stuart. There's your homework. Send him. Maybe in Canada there's a difference.
This is a 10,000 grit. You can move from, you don't really have to go this high. If you have an 8,000, 6, 4, you can stop from anywhere along there. But it's so much fun to hit on the 10 if you got the 10. This is the Ohishi from Lee Nielsen. Helps if you clamp your stones in the vise. There you go.
Do they sell replacement blades, Tom? Or
yeah, I believe they do. Someone can check me on that. It's been a while, but I vaguely remember seeing that at one point. If you put a new handle on your veneer saw, you're going to want to keep that handle. So, all right, now that I've done that, I'm just going to take a peek. These look very nice. On this end, I could have done a little more with the V, but I'm not going to worry about it. See, I would have paid more attention. All right, so there's our just sharpened edge. So I'm going to put it back in now that I've honed it beautifully. Get those little screws back. If you haven't seen this before, I forgot to tell you to put that as a link too.
We can add that.
That's always
make your own tool handles.
Seems to always come up when I'm using these because they're not store-bought. They're make your own out of Wenge. Let's test out our saw, shall we? All right, so I've got a little sacrificial piece of material. I'm using MDF here. Plywood is excellent too. In fact, plywood is actually more favorable than MDF, because MDF dulls your saw a little faster. Not enough that I run and get plywood because of the MDF stays really dead flat and it's cheaper in general. So I am going to veneer these. So if you remember our legs, we have our designer legs for our very hip table. We've got this, but once we did the legs, we kind of have to do something special on the rest of it, right? So this is one of the apron pieces, just kind of a very blah, plain piece of cherry. Very flat sawn, very fast growth. And so it's actually a nice piece to veneer over because it's not premium. So we're gonna veneer over this, and I got my little scribble here. Now, here's the thing. We're gonna use some of this very classy zebra veneer that we used on the legs. I just cut this veneer up to make those legs. And if you're new to this whole idea of veneer, check out a site like Certainly Wood Veneer Company. They're not a sponsor or anything. I just think they have a really nice site, and you can look at a lot of their photographs of all the variety of veneer. Check out, see, I wonder if they have zebra wood as nice as this right now. But anyway, this I use for the legs, but I also want to use it for the apron. Now, here's the question. How do we want to orient it? Should we have it go horizontally? And then our leg would come in. Let's see if I can, I don't know if this will even fit. That's a pretty wide apron, actually. I gotta cut this. But just, you got the idea. Do we want it to go horizontally into the apron or vertically? You see, we're not limited with veneer by grain direction. It can be glued to the surface, and because it's so thin, whatever direction we glue it to the face of this rail, it will not overcome that glue bond. It's too thin. This is 7/8 thick. Even though it's plain sawn, no matter what direction I put it on there, it's not going to be a problem. In fact, something this small, I don't even worry about veneering the back. You don't have to worry about it on something like this because it's going to be fixed in a tenon, but if you want it, go for it. But I'm going to show you that you don't need to. You could just darken that a little bit later, and when you look under the table, you'll see, wow, it's cherry behind the veneer. Okay, so we're going to veneer this, but we're going to use the vertical method. Very often in period furniture, in 18th century furniture, the aprons of the tables would be veneered, and they'd be veneered with the grain running vertically. And quite often it was that quarter sawn mahogany. So you had that ribbon cut. And you've seen me use that in the sunbursts and all kinds of ways. It's actually that cut that's on that. That stripy figure can be also positioned vertically on the apron. It makes a gorgeous looking apron. So I'm going to show you a quick method for putting a vertical figure grain on the face with our newly sharpened saw. All right, so let's get a piece of zebra wood. We're going to come across here, and we can see that our rails are, I think they're 12 1/4. My piece is 11, so I'm going to have to piece this up. So I'm going to get some tape. I'll just use masking tape for this. I don't have to break out the veneer tape or anything like that. You can get by with that. And I want to go perpendicular to the grain. So let's get our straight edge, and we'll establish a straight kind of perpendicular cut. I just use the square on this side to kind of get a sense of how the grain is going. Sometimes it's actually angular. That actually looks fine right like that. So let's make our first cut. I'm going to trim this end. There's a little bit of cracking there. Now, when you're cutting with a veneer saw, if you just go straight off the end, quite often you'll get a fracture right here, almost like tear out in solid wood. So you want to just just relieve that and cut. Now it won't tear out. And then light strokes. And there you go. Beautifully cut. It's a nice slice. I can feel it's sharp. That's hard. That's actually a hard cut because this zebra wood is quite brittle and fibrous, and it's a little over thick, which I like. It's a little thicker than the veneer that you get, you know, typical 42nd of an inch. So I'm going to just cut these. This is 3 inches wide, so I'm going to go 3 1/8. I'll just set my rule 3 1/8 both sides and cut off some pieces here. See, that's cracking, but no worries. We'll just get past that somehow.
Are you going to veneer the bottom?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to do the bottom because it's not seen. The bottom edge, no. But I'm considering putting an inlaid line along the bottom edge, if that's what you mean. Because that's cracking, I got to get another piece. I'm gonna do 2 at once because it's easy enough to glue up 2 sides instead of 1 by itself. Here we go. We've got 3 pieces. That should be enough. I'm gonna set this aside, and here we go. We're gonna bring these around, and now we're gonna cut them to fit here together. And let's see, I'll make this my end. This is kind of a varied piece. Sometimes you've got like a weird wide band right there, and if I was being a purist about this one, maybe I wouldn't want that, and I just want kind of finer grain like that. That's a little more choice material, you know. This is like the fat. A little white line there, a little too much fat on this one. So that's what I'm going to do. Actually, I think I'm actually going to turn it back around this way. It'll be easier to show. So I'm going to square this edge. I'm going to do that. Actually, you can use a regular square, but I found these woodpecker squares, they have a thicker blade, so they make it quite easy to guide the veneer saw. Now I'm going to come between a couple of these lines here. So I want to hide the seam, which is quite easy actually with veneer that's this highly striped. So here we go. I'm going to bring it over here. Now this is cracked, and I might want to zip past that, as I said. So you wouldn't want to try to make a joint right where you're going on a dark thing. You know, if I had a light line right on a dark piece, it'd be hard to see, but you could see it. If you slip it over and sneak it in, like right in that little white tonal zone there, and make a little pencil mark, I'll have a beautiful seamless match here. Okay, I usually have a piece of chalk too, and you can make a little indication that this one's going to join with that one. So I'm going to flip this around, get a nice little cut, square this up. And I'm always putting the side I want under the straight edge so that I get that straight shot cut right there, okay? So there we go. These two will match up. Look at that. We'll have a seamless joint just like that. Now let's do one more. That's our beginning. So let me flip this back where I had it. Now we'll bring this one. Let's see if we get rid of that. I'll trim this end again. And sometimes when you're doing a lot of this work, you just keep going and mark them, and then you can piece them together later. So let's see how this one matches. We can come in here, a little bright. We'll slip over. Right there looks good. let's stop right there. Get the pencil. And let's double dot this one. Okay. Hope I have enough to do 2 here. Let's see.
Do you ever cut 2 layers at once, Tom?
Not usually, because usually I'm looking at the grain, and it's a little more, this is puckered, and you really want to flatten it out. I might want to get one more piece, because I want to get rid of that wide band there. Yeah, I guess I'll use this as my straight edge. Should be straight. Go 3 1/8. Both sides. I've been thinking a little bit about what the top should be of this table, but I haven't decided totally. I think I might do the edge similar to this, and then on the surface maybe a border with this, but then an interior with some kind of interesting contrast. If anybody's got any ideas, go ahead and say them. I'm not going to pay any attention, but you can say whatever you want. I'm just kidding. Sorry, that wasn't very nice. All right, so I'm going to...
It's not true either. You do listen.
Oh, let me record that. Then I could use that.
Gosh.
I'm sorry. All right.
I meant you listen to them.
Oh, okay. It's not a general blanket statement I could use at other times.
It has everything to do with how you say it.
All right. Okay, so now I'm going to come over here and slide this in. And that looks, let's see. I'll just get rid of that band. I got plenty to use here, so I'm going to go right there. That looks perfect. Bring it a little closer.
Dean says sunbursts with a boarded same as the aprons.
Yes. Dean, wow. You read my mind. I was thinking sunburst. Or using some of that. I was thinking of the mahogany, but then I was looking at other material. Oops, that kind of
Bill
broke
said,
a little bit.
how about the famous starburst veneer for the top?
Yeah. A nice sunburst with some linear grain radiating out. I have some spectacular curly maple down there. I almost thought of using that. It's almost quilted, and I have some unbelievable quilted sapele that I got when Berkshire Veneer was going out of business. And I told you guys about that. I hope you took advantage. But anyway, there we go. So I'm just going to tape these up, and then we'll cut them to fit our apron. So let's just get that on there.
Craig thinks walnut would be a nice contrast.
Yeah, walnut would be very pretty contrast. I was looking at wenge as well, like some kind of browner wood, but then, I don't know. I'm going to keep looking. I'll have to peruse the veneer rack. And this is good. When you've got roly-poly veneer like this, it's good to get the tape pressed with the roller, because the roller presses it and makes sure that it's not overlapping. And then we'll go this way. And get another one. So I'm using the tape in a way that I'm like pulling across the seam here. I just push it down on this side, and I just pull it across, stretch it a little bit, and then it goes right on in. Get a few pieces here. Actually, I don't need that many pieces, do I? Okay. Now we'll go the long way to the seam, and that just holds it together really nicely. You do those cross stitches and then along the seam. Lastly, let's hit this one. This would make a nice Christmas gift if I was fast enough. And didn't have all these parties to go to. I'm such a socialite. People. What? Bah humbug. All right, I'm going to go right across here.
Blue tape or green tape an option for what you're doing?
You can use the blue tape. Yeah, the green tape is a little thicker. You want thin enough tape, like it depends. Sometimes when you press it, the thickness of the tape will telegraph into the veneer. So nice thing now is I'm just going to use the pieces as my guide. I'll just leave about 1/8 of an inch off each end. I can come over here and I'll just come off of that one.
And how thick did you say that veneer was, Tom?
Standard veneer is a 42nd of an inch thick. But when you look at certainly wood or other sites, I'm not sure about other ones, but they have a section called special thickness veneers. So you can get thicker. They're not in all species, but if you see something you like, you might want thicker veneer for certain situations. I've used it to make laminations. You know, you can, there we go. But some of the older veneer, it used to be sawn at a true 32nd of an inch. Some of the stuff I got from Pug, like back then, I've used probably most of it by now, but it was just heavier sawn then. All right, so check that out. We've got some really nice looking veneer on this side. You'd never know it was seamed. So we're going to now glue it to the faces. I'm going to get this rail and this rail. And this is going to be my block because I've got paper on it. Because the thing about this zebra wood is it's open grain. There's pores in there. And the glue will, when you in the press, it weeps right up through those holes. And if you didn't have any kind of paper or wax on your caul, you'd be gluing your rails to your caul. And I'm going to use a center caul on this one. Rather than put it in a bag in this case, it's so simple just to use good old pressure. So that's what we'll do. I'm just going to quickly get some glue on here. I'm just going to use yellow because I'm in a fast mood. Actually, it's not much to do, that's why. And this will grab quickly. You could use a number of glues here, but I would just use a PVA glue in this case, like Type On 3 or the yellow. You could even use white glue. It's not like it's going to creep big time or anything like that. This is a very simple glue up.
Contact cement an option?
You know it is, but it's such a mess and a hassle. It's so, when you see me do this, it's so much easier to use this. This is plenty of glue strength here, and cleans up with water, no nasty smells, and just not, I almost never use contact cement anymore. I remember when I was starting out, I read somebody had it in a book, and later on I realized they were unusual in their use of contact cement. So
Lee's saying he thought hide glue was preferred for veneer so it could be repaired.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what it is. You know, if it's a 18th century piece, then yeah, I would definitely stick to the pure old. You could use hide glue as well, and I've done that. Once we made we made a curved drawer front or something like that, and we hammered some hide glue on there. But I want this to stay. it's not going to come off. Not in my lifetime. So I'm not worried about it on this project. Plus, I'm just making this up as I go along. I don't know. I'm not thinking about the future right now. But here we go. I can't imagine why this would ever need to be repaired, though, because it's going to be so surrounded by other parts, you know. And we're going to make it so well that we don't have an issue. Now, I'm just putting this tape on here to keep it from sliding when I get it in the press. My little, very simple press. We're not going to use the vacuum press or anything like that for this. We could, but I didn't set it up, and just thought I'd show you another method. When you're not doing a lot, you can just bang it out like this, and there we go. So those are centered. I got nice overhang on both sides. So I'm just going to leave that one there. I'm going to bring my papered caul, which is just like a piece of, like, it's about 7/8 thick. I think it's cherry or some kind of hardwood. And then we'll bring this one and we'll flip it and set it opposite the other. Make a nice little veneer sandwich. Really just 3 of these will do it. So these are going to be pressuring in on each other. We should see a little squeeze out here. These rails are 7/8 thick, so oh, see, it's wanting to slide a little bit. It's greasy, so I got to make sure these clamps don't want to push it. Oh, it's looking beautiful. Nice little squeeze out all around. Snug her up. This one will go in the middle. Look at that. Nice squeeze out. And one more down the end here. All right, so check that out. We've got nice squeeze out all along the edges, and that won't take long to set up. So we're going to set it aside, and when it comes out, it's going to look something like this. Okay, so this is the tape that was on there. I took a little off the other end, but man, did it press. This is where the bleed through, I put a little too much glue on this one, I think. But I just want to show you. I would just take an orbital. I got 150 on there. You could have 120. Just got to make sure you keep it flat. All right, you get the idea. I could have gone a little more, but I've got to finish sanding after, because what I'm going to do now is very quickly, for your entertainment, throw in an inlaid ebony line on the bottom. This will be fast, so I'm going to slice this off. Now, I could go to the router table with a flush cut bearing, but I've got a sharp veneer saw. So I'm just going to just hit that and just skim that off. Now, I'm cutting across the grain, so that is, but boy, you get a beautiful flush cut right on the bottom there. Same thing, again. Light, it's better to do several light passes. Let the saw cut rather than forcing it and fracturing it out. Let the saw cut right on and you get a gorgeous smooth edge there. Now, I'm a little long right here, so this, I could break it, but I'm afraid it can't really break below, but I'd rather set this block plane heavy, and I'm just gonna get rid of that fast this way.
Have you ever thought of using wax paper, Tom, instead of paper?
Oh yeah, wax paper, that would have been a good idea. Where were you? Who said that?
Ed?
Ed. Where were you? That would have been a great idea. Was that Ed Roman?
Different Ed.
Ed, that's a great suggestion. I have used it, but I didn't have any out here.
Tom, Lee's curious if you've ever tried end grain veneer.
Oh, no, I haven't, but I have seen that. That is something I am going to mess around with sometime. But I save a file. I have probably hundreds of photographs of pieces that I'd look at and I think, wow, that would be amazing to incorporate sometime. And that end grain was one of them. So I'm just checking to see how clean I've got it up to the edge. That looks pretty sweet. And so I don't want to overcut the shoulder there, but you've got to get rid of that flap before it breaks. Here, this is probably the better way. This one I kept the wider bands. I wasn't thinking I had the same appearance. I don't think it matters that much. I was being kind of fussy on that last one, I think.
Yeah, how about a layer of 1/8 inch MDF or birch so the paper doesn't stick? Getting a lot of good ideas about how to keep that from happening to you.
Yeah, how about not using as much glue? That's what
Yeah, Michael suggested that too.
That's what I need to do. But I was just pouring it on there and I didn't take time. So there, it's all cleaned up. I've got a really crisp joint. So now we've transformed this simple piece of cherry into this elegant zebra wood. Now, I'm going to put that black ebony line down here, and I've got some material right here. This is solid Gaboon ebony, and I've got a bunch of it, but if you wanted to make your own, there is a place you can buy, I don't know that they sell the ebony lines, but you can buy a chunk of ebony and make your own lines. I usually buy a billet from like Goose Bay. They have exotics like that, and I don't know who else sells that kind of thing. If somebody knows where to get ebony inlay lines, let me know. You'll pay a premium for it already made, but it does save you time if you want it. There is imitation as well, but it's not the same density. All right, so I'm going to recess for this here. Now I'm not going to use the full width. I'm just going to go 1/8 of an inch line along the bottom edge and set the depth. So I've already set this router to that depth. Let's just get a clamp on here. And I'm just going to go along the bottom edge. Flip around. You could set this obviously in the router table and make it an easier job if you had a lot to do. I've got to knock that fuzz off there. Before I put the line in, I'm just going to hit that by going this way. Got to stand with the grain, which is kind of weird because it's vertical. It's these little short vertical strokes here. And then I'll turn it this way just to skim along and take that. All right, I'm going to just clamp this on here. Get this line in here quickly.
Anthony had a little tip. He said, ever sprinkle salt when gluing and clamping the veneer to keep it from sliding?
Yeah, I've heard that tip. I haven't. I've never done that. It doesn't hold the joint open at all, does it? I guess you wouldn't want to use that Himalayan salt. So there, I've got a light amount of glue. That's where the little glue bottle comes in really handy. And I'm just going to set this in and leave a little overhanging on that end and a lot overhanging on the other end. And I'm going to just kind of rub fit it in, and I can feel it grab. And you can see a little bit of squeeze out all along. That's nice. And then get I didn't want to put too much glue because you don't want it all over the place here. This is the green tape that's heavier, it's stronger, so I just kind of pull, it doesn't break as easily. Pull it across the corner and just force it down in there. You get a beautiful tight fit. And let that glue set up. And there we are. After that dries, you're going to have one like this. And I am going to clean this up. And we're going to put it in those legs and call it a night. Now we're going to clean up that. We've got to cut that cleanly. So I'm going to grab the Japanese saw here. And I'm just going to use that shoulder as my guide. I don't know if you can see that. Probably not from there. But I'll just drag it over. Nice little light cuts. And feel if it's proud at all. If it was a little proud, I would just come in with my shoulder plane. And just skim it. You can check. I often check with the bottom of the shoulder plane. See if it looks flush. And that looks good. Then we come to the other side, same thing. Nice and gentle here. Then I feel, let's see if that looks flush. Pretty close. All right, so we got that. Now, if I was really cleaning this up, you can use your block plane like this, and I'm resting. The body is on the rail, so just the blade is kind of over the Gaboon ebony. And see, I'm getting some, just starting to get the shavings going here. And you would just kind of flush this up if it was too high, but you can see you get those, it's kind of like, it's beautiful wood because it's hard, very closed grain, and almost waxy. It's a blast to card scrape too. So now I have to hit the bottom edge a little bit because it's too proud. I get this set pretty fine, but well, it's still proud a bit. Let me try this one. This one I could change the height, but I'm too lazy for that. Actually, I just keep this one set heavy. So this line's going to get a bit finer than you saw at first there. Okay, now when I get close, I don't adjust the plane, I just change planes to this nice little fine one. That's nice, beautiful. And then I always like to break that edge a little bit because that's going to leave a sharp kind of edge there. So we just want to knock that over. You got to be careful not to cross grain sand that zebra wood. So let's see if how this works. We're going to put this side in first. And we'll get our other side back in this direction here. There it is. Ah, check it out. There is a pretty slick looking table.
Wow.
Changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We should put a little water on it, right? Just want to dampen it and see a little closer to what the color and contrast will look like here. That's fun to see. So we've got those cuffed feet. We've got the vertical grain on the apron and the ebony line detail. Here we go. And there you have it. Got a nice contrast between the traditional shaker, the identical table components you can see what's possible with veneer. So it's really fun, pretty easy to execute that, but dramatically different. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. If you do enjoy this content, go ahead and subscribe and be more connected to us. If you want to get really deeper with our content, you can go to epicwoodworking.com and check out our courses there, and just get on the mailing list too, because we do send out offers and early messages to those who are following us on our email list. So check it out. All right, everybody. Thank you once again for hanging out with us in the shop. On behalf of the camera lady and myself,
Yes.
we will see you next time.